hours campaigning with her boyfriend. When she woke up, she found herself alone. At that time, John went to the airport to pick up his ex-girlfriend. Nabi checked her sent messages but found no responses. She kept checking her phone all day long, thinking anxiously about what she had done wrong. But unexpectedly, as soon as she stepped outside, she saw the guy who had been missing all day drunkenly talking to her. His ex-girlfriend and he were still intimate as they walked away arm in arm. In that moment, Nabi realized she had been just one of his temporary amusements. Feeling depressed, she went to the convenience store to buy bread for dinner. While eating, she unexpectedly met an enthusiastic junior who not only offered her milk but also persisted in asking for her phone number. John, standing on the floor above, watched all this happening and noticed how attentive the junior was being. Feeling threatened, he sat down and invited her to exercise with him. Later, when she got home, she immediately received a text message from her junior. Han's way of messaging was somewhat childish, causing her to smile uncontrollably. However, her face turned cold as soon as she saw John's name appear. The next day, Han began pursuing her earnestly. He not only brought her carefully prepared fruit but also invited her to watch a movie with him. While they were talking happily, John suddenly appeared. He started teasing Han while deliberately placing his hand on Nabi's shoulder to show their intimacy. But she hated this action and pushed him away, which made John angry. Nabi was very particular about kissing technique. She told him to study more before going to the movies. Nabi angrily pulled him to the rooftop. The events of the past few days led to a huge argument between them. Han overheard their entire conversation. Despite this, he didn't give up pursuing Nabi and continued trying to convince her to date him. Nabi, in her anger, immediately agreed. They spent a joyful day together. Like a typical couple heading home, Han hugged Nabi and confessed his love. After his confession, he immediately tried to kiss her. Seeing his naive expression, Nabi couldn't accept it. He laughed when he saw her reaction. Embarrassed, he ran away. Nabi appeared at a dating party where she wanted to marry Han, but unexpectedly, he revealed he had a girlfriend. The situation became so absurd that she accidentally fell into someone's fish pond. John witnessed this embarrassing scene. When she got home, she had a headache and stared blankly at the ceiling, her mind filled with images of her time with John. John called wanting to ask her out, but hearing her cough made him worried. He was about to offer to come take care of her, but unexpectedly, Nabi's phone was turned off. This unexpected action created a catastrophic misunderstanding. After turning off her phone, Nabi went out to buy medicine. Upon returning, she discovered many people standing in front of her door. She hurriedly went upstairs to find John worriedly directing staff at the door, not understanding what was happening. Her appearance made him breathe a sigh of relief, and after they saw him, the staff left. John wanted to check on her temperature, but Nabi avoided him until midnight. She was awakened by the sound of the door and opened it to find John holding food. He walked in, not only allowing her to eat everything but also hugging her. She returned to her room, and he sat beside the bed telling her stories. Looking at the boy in front of her again, she fell in love with him. The first rays of sunlight streamed into the room as she gazed at the boy who had taken care of her. Nabi couldn't control her emotions throughout the night. Suddenly, John slowly approached her, and they moved together on the bed. After waking, she couldn't see John's anger. At that moment, he ran over to share his warmth with her. Nabi, his ex-girlfriend, felt worried and decided to shyly ask her brother. She said he wasn't sick. John smiled at her, saying not to worry. He made plans to come to her house that night. Nami had just arrived when the family immediately started applying makeup, but she quickly felt regretful. She shouldn't have compromised her values like that. She picked up the phone to tell him not to come anymore. But before she could act, the doorbell rang. Several beer cans sat on the table, waiting for a casual evening. She wanted to use the alcohol to cause some mischief. Nabi shyly explained herself to him. Then John hung the butterfly he had crafted in front of the window, symbolizing free and eternal love. It was a sweet explanation. Who could resist such sweetness? Life was so exciting that it brought the two people closer together. They ate together, bathed together, talked together, and did everything that couples typically do in their relationships. Days and nights passed, but their relationship lasted only one night. The one constant was that at 5 a.m. John would leave, leaving Nabi alone and uncertain. She had originally thought their relationship would remain secret, but unexpectedly, people were quietly gossiping behind her back. Nabi went to John to confirm their relationship. She didn't expect him to say only one sentence, "I just want things to stay as they are now." This made Nabi fall into deep contemplation, and she disappointedly told John that they should end it, knowing clearly that he was a peculiar guy with butterflies in his stomach, yet she still couldn't control falling in love with him. He really enjoyed their current relationship status at this hour, and she agreed. Although she understood it wasn't love. Nabi didn't expect that John would treat her like a trophy to show off in front of his classmates. He coldly sat and watched her joke with them. In her anger, she went directly to confront him. She stood before him and asked, "Why don't I have any place in your heart?" She had already guessed his answer, but hearing it still hurt deeply. As soon as John finished speaking, a man rushed in and began beating him. It turned out that the man's sister, after being rejected by John, had cried and threatened suicide, and when Nabi tried to intervene and stop him, he pushed her away. John fell to the ground and became furious. The two immediately started fighting and were eventually taken to the police station. Before leaving, the man told her that she shouldn't compare herself to someone as irresponsible as John. After experiencing many such incidents, she decided to completely end things with John, but he refused to let her go. Since then, Nabi not only took dancing lessons but also began studying painting, though John didn't seem to care. Her dedication made John feel so guilty that he noticed himself getting thinner. Because he had been involved with so many girls, he decided to temporarily step back to rest, so he went to Nabi to flirt with her, but just walked away. From his perspective, how could she return to that place? She acted coldly and wanted to leave, but in John's eyes, he saw it only as a minor love affair. No one knew that this scene had been witnessed by his ex-girlfriend. Seol-A, hidden in the corner, saw that she was a very possessive person. When she saw this guy, her face immediately turned red, but strangely, from then on, Nabi completely disappeared. She didn't even go to the boys' school anymore. It was difficult. He had just flirted with a good girl, but his ex-girlfriend was playing tricks on him, yet how could a playboy be sad for more than 3 seconds? He pretended to be someone who was in love with his ex-girlfriend and started talking to other girls instead. Nabi returned to her hometown to visit her mother and once again met the Australian boy. There he even invited her to go on a picnic with him. When Nabi stood before the ocean, all her wounds suddenly felt healed. The Australian boy appeared obedient and innocent. His eyes always looked southward, and he only dared to silently maintain contact with her. But as dusk fell, the romantic atmosphere of the sunset affected him. After drinking a glass of wine, he bravely revealed his secret, "I like you in my heart." Do-hyuk's words left Nabi suddenly uncertain how to respond. Do-hyeok also became confused and had to explain that he was just kidding. Going back to her side, he called her repeatedly to prevent her from worrying. A bit of confusion arose. Clearly they had been on good terms the other day, but why was she now disappearing like this? Unexpectedly, the next day Seol-A came to school to find Nabi gone, making her clearly understand that John's heart no longer had anything to do with her. So she took the initiative to admit that she had gone to see Nabi to separate them and asked him to acknowledge her feelings. John realized then when his heart had changed. It wasn't good, and he remembered what his mother once told him, "If you have feelings, don't wait until it's too late to start regretting." He also began looking directly at his feelings when the Australian boy suddenly appeared outside calling her. The two of them each rode a bicycle, then went to the town market. The simple and authentic atmosphere made Nabi's mood feel somewhat relieved, even when the landlady commented that they looked very much like newlyweds. She just smiled shyly, but when she saw another girl appear next to Do-hyuk, her old feelings of betrayal made her stop, until Do-hyuk introduced her as just a relative, improving Nabi's mood. Letting go of their love rivalry, officially meeting each other, the two men's eyes met, making the air feel charged with tension. Fortunately, their companions appeared to break that atmosphere, but the two of them soon found themselves in close proximity after cleaning up the room. Everyone sat in the same place, starting to think of ways to help John. The group's next journey was to visit the amusement park, and when it came time to choose vehicles, desperate to create an opportunity for Nabi and John to be together, Nabi had no choice but to get in John's car. But she insisted on sitting in the back seat to maintain distance, while the Australian who pursued her boldly sat in the passenger seat. Without knowing the situation, the driver assumed the two in front were a couple and the girl in the back seat was the third wheel. Yeon tried to peek at Nabi through the rearview mirror but discovered that she was also looking at him, making him feel a little happy as they headed to the amusement park. Do-hyeok started to show off all his skills in front of Nabi. Not only did he excel at shooting games, but he also demonstrated super photography techniques that made the other boys' faces darken as they waited. Standing in line at the Ferris wheel, he stared at the two of them. He didn't need to say anything for others to know he was very jealous, but he didn't dare to interfere with her. She didn't expect such a coincidence during the time when John and Nabi were inseparable. A group of people sat on the Ferris wheel, with his former companion sitting right in front of him. John didn't hesitate to take this opportunity. He looked pitiful as he sat down in front of her, wondering why she wouldn't pay attention to him. Nabi warned herself not to react, but John's actions made her waver again. She couldn't help but go to her best friend's house and ask if she had misunderstood something with John. Nabi didn't say anything, but in the evening when everyone was gathering, Nabi saw John having fun with another girl, and she still couldn't control her anger, though all of this was observed by others. At this time, a classmate curiously asked Do-hyeok how they had met, forgetting about his previous story. The Australian frankly answered that on a rainy day on the bus he had fallen in love with Nabi. His direct confession made Nabi unconsciously look in that direction, and anyone who saw her could understand who she was truly interested in. Then everyone started playing Truth or Dare. They saw the Australian whispering something intimately to Nabi. John had been jealous all day and couldn't contain it anymore. When no one was around, he went into the room and told Nabi that he still missed her so much he couldn't understand why. As soon as she walked out of the room, she met Do-hyeok, who secretly loved her, making her feel a little lonely. Then Do-hyeok happily took her to a small forest area where the scene had been carefully prepared. Before he could even speak, she began to feel touched, but when he gave her a bouquet of flowers and confessed his love, she immediately refused. She apologized to him because she was still focused on John, explaining she didn't deserve his love, but when she sat alone in front of the entrance, swing in hand, still unsteady, he immediately smiled, his eyes filled with mockery and pride. Good men have always been unable to resist him. Do-hyeok was extremely upset. Those who don't possess something won't be able to stay calm, while those who are more favored fear nothing. Nabi woke up early the next morning and saw John's car in front of her house, so she quickly ran downstairs. Seeing him here meant he had come to learn from his mistakes, but she forgot how much pain he had caused her. Nabi didn't want to fall into that trap again, quickly signaling him to leave, but John's purpose was to pursue her, and before leaving, he didn't forget to say "see you tomorrow," his simple actions and words leaving Nabi shaken. The next day, she got in the car prepared to return, but Do-hyeok chased after her to make one last attempt. In the end, he didn't even dare to express his love face to face, only saying it through Nabi's window. After returning home, Nabi's family didn't seem upset about John proactively contacting her. It seemed like she was certain she wouldn't be able to leave him this time. No, she had failed again, but just as she was about to send the message, Do-hyeok called again. He made her laugh and her sad mood completely disappeared. The two of them stayed like that, cooking porridge and talking on the phone all night. The next day at school, John's work was noticed by a foreign company who wanted to recruit him for his talent. His facial features were all top-notch, making Nabi stand in a corner, blankly thinking about something, and when she thought she could erase everything, he chose to appear again as a model for their drawing class. The classmates were fighting for every moment to draw him, but Nabi couldn't calm down. John kept looking at her. Their eyes often met, making Nabi's heart beat erratically. It was difficult for her to see it all, as John was still happily talking to someone else. Nabi immediately turned around and left, but she didn't know that for her sake he had taken the initiative to work as a model. When she returned to school, thinking about their relationship, she felt sad and had a headache. Fortunately, at this time Do-hyeok called. She should do what she wanted, and while the two of them were talking enthusiastically, John stood outside the door and heard him, losing all his courage to approach her, but she didn't want to turn back, and instead ran to someone else. From that day on, John started pursuing Nabi more intensely. Not only did he follow her home every day, but he also made plans to take her to an art exhibition. Looking at her, he remarked that when they first met they were just casual lovers sharing the same bed. Now he frankly admitted that he was in love with her, making Nabi worry about losing him, afraid that he was just lying to comfort her, But she didn't know that he would once again use his actions to prove to her that he was no longer the same person immersed in casual pleasures, but rather someone who wanted to stay by Nabi's side to enjoy every happy moment. On the other hand, Do-hyeok also began to appear, excited to pursue Nabi. Every day he prepared a special meal for her and took advantage of their time watching videos to secretly sit close to her. This scene was noticed by John passing by, and seeing the two of them laughing and chatting happily with each other made John crazy. John went to see Nabi to make peace, but he suddenly saw her coming back from outside. Angry, John thought she had just returned from a date and said that he didn't expect Nabi to be such a promiscuous person. His harshness disappointed Nabi deeply. Conflicts accumulated for a long time, causing both of them to explode with hurtful words slipping out. In the end, both of them walked away in an unhappy mood. John became depressed because of this incident. He blamed himself for ruining everything and destroying his relationship with Nabi. Nabi was tormented by pain, crying all night but still forcing herself to go to class. Who would have expected her to encounter something more devastating than her emotional turmoil? Her graduation project was shattered by the storm last night, the shock coming so suddenly that Nabi was speechless. She collapsed and sat on the ground. As the project deadline got closer and closer, she felt extremely helpless. The emotional and academic pressure made her feel breathless. At this time, John was packing his luggage and preparing to leave when he suddenly received a phone call from his best friend about Nabi. He quickly ran to the classroom and looked at the fragments scattered on the ground. Seeing Nabi sitting in a corner crying, he was extremely heartbroken. He walked up to her and said, "Let's try again." This sentence made Nabi cry loudly because he promised that after helping her, he would not appear again in the following days. Both of them put their heads down and started remaking the work. Nabi also felt comfort and relief that she had never experienced before. Yoon was still very concerned about her, picking up food for her. When she was tired and lying on the sofa, he covered her with a blanket. He intended to wipe off all the smudges on her face, but in the end, he slowly withdrew his hand. Even when he finished and was returning home, John maintained his distance and simply wished her a good evening, not taking the initiative to walk her home like before. After a few days of intense work, they finally completed the project that was due. They should have been congratulating themselves, but they were both extremely regretful and uncomfortable when they had to separate. No matter how much he couldn't bear it, in the end he had to give up. And the moment he turned to leave, Nabi was also heartbroken and in tears because she knew clearly that their tumultuous relationship was really over. Later she heard from friends that John was going abroad. Nabi didn't react at all, but suddenly one day she happened to flip open the sketchbook he had given her before leaving. Inside was a drawing of their first meeting at her ex-boyfriend's house. As soon as he saw her, he thought that she was his destiny. He wanted to love but didn't understand what love was, so he had to approach her in his usual ways. But unexpectedly, it pushed them further apart. This endless love affair made Nabi unable to forget him. Even when she went out shopping, she remembered his smile. She always lived in memories of him, not daring to move forward quickly. Planning to attend the exhibition of Nabi's work, she wore the bracelet he gave her and applied the lipstick he had given her, hoping that he would suddenly appear. At this moment, the Australian representative came holding flowers. While she was chatting, she accidentally saw John's silhouette. She quickly returned the flowers to the Australian and chased after John, but she couldn't see his figure anymore. It seemed like everything was just her imagination at this point. Do-hyeok also chased after her and frankly told Nabi he knew she didn't love him, but he still wanted her to accept the flowers he gave her so he could end this unrequited love. Then he left, and everyone else offered their congratulations, but the happy atmosphere made Nabi feel out of place. The silence after the bustle ended made people feel disappointed. She sadly turned back to the exhibition room to get her things when she saw a familiar back that surprised her. She was stunned for a moment as that figure was standing in front of her work. She gradually walked towards him. His late appearance made Nabi extremely dissatisfied. She blamed him, saying he was very cruel. If he was going to be cruel, why not be cruel until the end? Why show his face to her now? After all this, how did he expect her to live? John thought that his appearance had hurt her again. But when he looked down, he saw Nabi wearing the bracelet he had given her. He understood that Nabi was approaching him because she didn't want to live with regrets, so she proposed they try loving each other again. The two people who were in a never-ending relationship are now finally together, but they don't know how it started or where their future will go. The movie ends here. Thanks for watching this recap. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to comment below and tell me what movie or series you want me to recap next.